Okay, my name's Leilani Numbers, and I have come up with a company for this semester's project. I'm going to call it Rent a Casket. Basically what it is, our MVP is a beautiful shell of a casket. You'll have many options to choose from, just like you would if you were to go into a mortuary and choose a casket. You would have the same options. Basically what you would be doing is you would be renting the shell of the casket and then buying the insert, which would be a well-made basically box without all the frills. Um, what this does is this allows a product to the 18 million plus customers each year that are looking for a casket and struggle because it's way too expensive for what they can afford. So with this option, they can rent the shell of the casket so they still feel like they have something beautiful to look at during the actual funeral and ceremony type situations that they have. But as far as the actual product, they don't end up spending as much money because they don't have to buy the actual casket. They just buy the box and nobody ever knows the difference. So that's our MVP. The market, like I said, over 18 million people die every year, and so that's our market, and it has been growing at 11 to 16% each year. When I studied our competitors, which would be caskets, those selling caskets or possibly those that choose the cremation route, it showed that cremation's actually going up because it is the cheaper option, and I think we could get a lot of those clients that would prefer not to go the cremation route but just can't afford the typical burial costs of a casket and land and all of that. So our market sizing actually looks really good, and the more research I did, the better that looked. As far as value proposition and key insights, what I found is most people that I talked to, everybody loved the idea. They thought that it would bring a real option to a lot of people who, again, struggle with coming up with the money that it takes to buy a casket and pay for funeral expenses. So the value proposition is great and aimed to those who are looking for a much affordable way to go. As far as the customer segments and key insights, customer segments would be, again, the lower to mid-range income population, those who have had deaths, and those who are price conscious. Our key partners would be with not only those Hillsdale, for instance, a company that makes caskets, so we could have them make us different options of shells for the caskets. And then our other partners would be with the mortuaries, so that as people went and met to plan a funeral, they would have this option presented to them. Key activities would be the production of making the shells, and then the production side of making the actual casket boxes to then sell to the customers, and then just having that delivered to the mortuaries in a way that would be low cost. Also, our key resources, so we would need to be funded in order to get this operation up and off the ground, and but the resources that we would use would just be private funding from those willing to put money in on this idea. I figured that it would cost, just to get it up and off the ground, about $100,000. Those costs would include making production for the shells of the caskets, and also just coming up with a well-made casket box, and then the advertising and overhead costs. Revenue would encompass the money that we gain from renting the actual shells, and then money that comes from those people that buy the boxes to go within the shells of the casket. And the past test fails, as I interviewed people, most people loved the idea. They weren't sure about the name, and honestly, I just haven't come up with a better name yet as far as Rent-A-Casket. It seems to explain exactly what it is, but many people have suggested that maybe we come up with a name that's a less crass for such a kind of tender moment in life. So my initial canvas compared to my most recent would be the initial canvas looked like this. The customer segments were families of the deceased, mortuaries, value proposition was cheaper. Honestly, they look about the same because I did put a lot of thought into the first one. Not too much has changed except for the cost as far as getting it up off the ground, and yeah, the key resources changed a little bit. But that's all. I hope you like my idea, and I'd love to get your feedback. Thank you.